Hare Krishna and good morning. Thank you for your association. And we like to make a start now on Srimad Bhagavatam class and attentive japa. I hope you're all doing well. So today we're talking about Mother Parvati cursing King Citraketu. And last week it was about Citraketu's lamentation over losing his son. So today is the next stage, and let's do a quick prayer first of all. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. Right, so he had become the ruler of Vidyadhar Loka. So he passed away soon after, and then he had become is like a interim reward for his bhakti. He became the ruler of Vidyadhar Loka, and was known as the most powerful mystic yogi. And he wandered about enjoying life for millions of years in that lok. And so that was his state. And he was having a lot of fun. He was enjoying himself, and he had everything going for him up there as well, with bodily strength and senses free from deterioration. And he traveled within the valleys of Sumeru mountain, which is the place for perfection for various kinds of mystic power. So I guess after millions of years of enjoyment, something will change in you. You can become a little bit puffed up, and you can forget Krishna as well because you're having so much fun. Very easily forgotten. So I reckon it was a bit of a test for him as well. See, how he was placed spiritually. So it's mentioned that in these valleys he enjoyed his life with the women of Vidyadhar Lok by chanting the glories of Supreme Lord Hari. So he was still chanting the glories of the Lord, and this was an intermediate product of his spiritual advancement in knowledge. And this pastime, it's mentioned that. So what happened then? The one time while Maharaj Citraketu was traveling in outer space on a brilliantly effulgent airplane given to him by Lord Vishnu, he saw Lord Shiva. So he was just going overhead, and he saw Lord Shiva surrounded by siddhas and charnas, and Lord Shiva was sitting in an assembly of great saintly persons and embracing Mother Parvati on his lap with his arm. And Maharaj Citraketu laughed loudly and spoke within the hearing of Mother Parvati. So he saw that there was an assembly of great saintly persons, and Lord Shiva was sitting there with his wife on his lap, and he was embracing her, and he found that really awkward, and he couldn't help his laughter. He just laughed out so loudly that even Mother Parvati heard him. It was like very humiliating for her. So Maharaj Citraketu said, Lord Shiva, the spiritual master of the general populace, is the best of all living entities who have accepted material bodies. He enunciates the system of religion, yet how wonderful it is that he is embracing his wife Parvati in the midst of an assembly of great saintly persons. So Lord Shiva, whose hair is matted on his head, has certainly undergone great austerities and penances, and indeed he is the president in the assembly of strict followers of Vedic principles. Nonetheless, he is seated with his wife on his lap and amidst the saintly persons, and is embracing her as if he were a shameless ordinary human being. This is what he thought of that scenario. So Maharaj Citraketu appreciated the exalted position of Lord Shiva, and therefore he remarked at how wonderful it was that Lord Shiva was acting like an ordinary human being. He appreciated Lord Shiva's position, but when he saw Lord Shiva sitting in the midst of saintly persons and acting like a shameless ordinary man, he was astonished. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that although Citraketu criticized Lord Shiva. He didn't offend Lord Shiva like Daksh. So Lord Shiva wasn't offended by his comments because it wasn't like Daksh who deliberately wanted to insult Lord Shiva. Daksh considered Lord Shiva insignificant, but Citraketu expressed his wonder at the Lord Shiva's being situated in that way. So he was just basically astonished at what was going on here. And but he maybe said a bit too much because Lord Shiva is very exalted, and we have to be careful what we say. Then he goes on, ordinary conditioned persons generally embrace their wives and enjoy their company in solitary places. How wonderful it is that Lord Mahadev, although a great master of austerity, is embracing his wife openly in the midst of an assembly of great saints. So Lord Shiva is counted among the best of yogis, yet he embraced his wife in the midst of great saintly persons. Citraketu appreciated how great Lord Shiva was to be unaffected even in that situation. Therefore, Citraketu was not an offender, he merely expressed his wonder. But was he offender? That's the thing. So Srila Shukdev Goswami continued to Maharaj Parikshit, my dear king, after hearing Citraketu's statement, Lord Shiva, the most powerful personality, excuse me, whose knowledge is fathomless, simply smiled and remained silent, and all the members of the assembly followed the Lord by not saying anything. So Citraketu's purpose in criticizing Lord Shiva is somewhat mysterious and cannot be understood by a common man. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, however, has made the following observations that Lord Shiva, being the most exalted Vaishnav and one of the most powerful demigods, is able to do anything he desires. Although he was externally exhibiting the behavior of a common man and not following etiquette, such actions cannot diminish his exalted position. The difficulty is that a common man, seeing that Lord Shiva's behavior, might follow his example, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, that whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So this is the thing, that although Lord Shiva, he can do nothing wrong, but other people are like to follow in his footsteps, and that may not be correct. So common man might also criticize Lord Shiva like Daksh, who suffered the consequences for his criticism. So King Citraketu desired that Lord Shiva sees his external behavior so that others might be saved from criticizing him and thus becoming offenders. If one thinks that Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the only perfect personality, whereas the demigods, even such demigods as Lord Shiva, are inclined to improper social affairs, he is an offender. So still we should not criticize them. Considering all this, King Citraketu was somewhat harsh in his behavior with Lord Shiva. So even though it might seem to us that something is not right with our seniors, but maybe it's just our lack of knowledge or misunderstanding. So we have to be careful. So Lord Shiva, who is always deep in knowledge, could understand Citraketu's purpose, and therefore he was not at all angry. Rather, he simply smiled and remained silent. The members of the assembly surrounding Lord Shiva could also understand Citraketu's purpose. Consequently, following the behavior of Lord Shiva, they didn't protest. Instead, following the master, they remained silent. If the members of the assembly thought that Citraketu had blasphemed Lord Shiva, they would certainly have left at once, blocking their ears with their hands. That is the etiquette when someone offends a Vaishnav. That's what we're supposed to do. We just block our ears and leave that place. So not knowing the prowess of Lord Shiva and Parvati, Citraketu strongly criticized them. His statements were not at all pleasing, and therefore the goddess Parvati, being very angry, spoke as follows to Citraketu, who thought himself better than Lord Shiva in controlling the senses. So although Citraketu never meant to insult Lord Shiva, he should not have criticized the Lord. Even though the Lord was transgressing social customs, it is said that one who is very powerful should be understood to be faultless. That's the etiquette. For example, one should not find faults with the sun Although it evaporates urine from the street, the most powerful cannot be criticized by an ordinary man or even by a great personality. Citraketu should have known that Shiva, although sitting in that way, was not to be criticized, because it was not his place to criticize him. This is the thing. The difficulty was that Citraketu, having become a great devotee of Lord Vishnu, Sankarshan was somewhat proud at having achieved Lord Sankarshan's favor, and therefore thought that he could now criticize anyone, even Lord Shiva. See, this is the thing. So it was suspected that he might be a little bit puffed up and proud of his position, of having so much enjoyment given to him, and he was considered himself a great devotee. So that had to be checked before he could go on to further stage. So this kind of pride in a devotee is never tolerated. A Vaishnav should always remain very humble and meek and offer respects to others. Tinada pisunechana taro shunana amanina manadena kirtanya sada hari. So only in that state can you carry on doing your bhakti. So one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of a sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So Vaishnav should not try to minimize anyone's position. It is better to remain humble and meek and chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So that is the advice to us. So what happened after that? The goddess Parvati said, "Alas, has this upstart now received a post from which to punish shameless persons like us? So we are so shameless in his eyes that he can now punish us. Has he been appointed ruler, carrier of the rod of punishment? Is he now the only master of everything? Alas, Lord Brahma, who has taken his birth from the lotus flower, does not know the principles of religion, nor do the great saints like Bhrigu and Narad, nor the four Kumaras, headed by Sanat Kumar, Manu and Kapila, have also forgotten the religious principles. I suppose it to be because of this that they have not tried to stop Lord Shiva from behaving improperly." So, there were saints there much higher position than him. If they didn't oppose, so what right did Citraketu have to oppose Lord Shiva? That's what Mata is saying. So this Citraketu is the lowest of Kshatriyas, who has impudently overridden Brahma and the other demigods by insulting Lord Shiva, upon whose lotus feet they always meditate. Lord Shiva is the personified religion and the spiritual master of the entire world, and therefore Citraketu must be punished for this impudence. All the members of the assembly were exalted Brahmins and self-realized souls, but they did not say anything about the conduct of Lord Shiva, who was embracing the goddess of Parvati on his lap. Citraketu nonetheless criticized Lord Shiva, and therefore the opinion of Parvati was that he should be punished. This person is puffed up because of his achievements, thinking, "I am the best." He doesn't deserve to approach the shelter of Lord Vishnu's lotus feet, which are worshipped by all saintly persons, for his impudent thinking himself greatly important. If a devotee thinks that he is very much advanced in devotional service, he is considered puffed up and unfit to sit beneath the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. So this is the opinion given. "O impudent one, my dear son, now take birth in a low, sinful family of demons, so that you will not commit such an offense again toward exalted saintly persons in this world. One should be very careful not to commit offenses at the lotus feet of Vaishnavas, of whom Lord Shiva is the the best Vaishnav." While instructing Srila Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes an offense of the. So this is an example given that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, when he was instructing Srila Rupa Goswami, described an offense of lotus feet of Vaishnav as Hati Mata, a mad elephant. When a mad elephant enters a nice garden, it spoils the entire garden. Similarly, if one becomes a mad elephant and commits offenses on the lotus feet of a Vaishnav, his entire spiritual career is halted. One should therefore be very careful not to commit offenses at the lotus feet of Vaishnav. So you could have the best bhakti, build a nice Bhakti Lata for yourself. So it's described as a beautiful garden, but just like an elephant, you can spoil it in seconds. You have to be very careful with your behavior, and this is why it's so stressed about Vaishnav etiquette. But actually, it's very easily done. We can get under illusion so quickly. We don't check our anger sometimes. We can easily misbehave very easily. So Mother Parvati was justified in punishing Citraketu, for Citraketu impudently criticized the Supreme Father, Mahadev, who is the father of the living entities conditioned within this material world. The goddess Durga is called Mother, and Lord Shiva is called Father. O pure Vaishnav, a pure Vaishnav should be very careful to engage in a specific duty without criticizing others. This is the safest position. Otherwise, if one tends to criticize others, he may commit the great offense of criticizing a Vaishnav. So, because Citraketu was undoubtedly a Vaishnav, he might have been surprised that Parvati had cursed him. Therefore, the goddess Parvati addressed him as Putra, or son. Everyone is the son of Mother Durga, but she is not an ordinary mother. So, as soon as there is a small discrepancy in a demon's behavior, Mother Durga immediately punishes the demon so that he may come to his senses. This is explained by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Daivihi yasha gunmai mammaya drutiyaya mameva ye prapadante mayam etam trantite. Durga Mata says, Lord Krishna says actually that this divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. To surrender to Krishna means to surrender to his devotees as well. For no one can be proper servant of Krishna unless he is a proper servant of a devotee. So because they are his representatives, so that's where you practice. This is where we are practicing. And if we show proper behavior with the devotees, then Krishna now that we are ready to serve him as well. So without serving a servant of Krishna, one cannot be elevated to being a servant of Krishna himself. Simple as that. Therefore, Mother Parvati spoke to Citraketu exactly like a mother who says to her naughty child, "My dear child, I am punishing you so that you won't do anything like this again." This tendency of a mother to punish a child is found even in Mother Yashoda, who became the mother of Supreme Personality Godhead. Mother Yashoda punished Krishna by binding him and showing him a stick. Thus, it is the duty of a mother to chastise her beloved son, even in the case of the Supreme Lord. So that's a mother's duty, to make sure that her child is behaving nicely. The Supreme Personality of Godhead wanted to bring Citraketu to Vaikuntha Lok as soon as possible, because he already spent millions of years in Vidyadhara Lok. So it was his time to come back, or rather come back home to Godhead. But any envy, greed, anger we have inside us, that has to be contained before we can go to the spiritual planet. The Lord's plan was that Citraketu be cursed by Parvati to become Vritasur, so that in his next life he could quickly return home, back to Godhead. So there have been many instances in which a devotee acting as a demon has been brought to the kingdom of God by the mercy of the Lord. So Parvati, to be embraced by Lord Shiva, was natural in a relationship between husband and wife. This was nothing extraordinary for Citraketu to see. Nonetheless, Citraketu laughed loudly to see Lord Shiva in that situation, even though he should not have done so. So thus he was eventually cursed, and this curse was the cause of his returning back home, back to Godhead. So that sort of started the process for him to returning back home. But he had to take a detour, first of all, to do that, because there was some pride in him, and that pride had to be destroyed. Excuse me. So they made arrangements for him, that he gets cursed and becomes a demon Vritasur, and that is also very nice pastimes as well on that for some other time. So this was the situation with the Maharaj Citraketu. So it's amazing that how easily we can become puffed up, even though we might be a great devotee, but we can so easily get under illusion, think we know better than everybody else. So we have to be very, very careful with that. So please share your reflections and your realizations. And who would like to start today? Sandhya Mata, you would like to say something? Excuse me.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji
Hare
and
Krishna, Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I know it's really good to hear I'm getting associated slowly, and it's nice whenever possible. I try to attend, and I want to hear more. Rather, rather I share my views on anything here.
Okay.
I would be a listener.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Haribol.
Very good. Okay, I think Partha Prabhu will have something. Who?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Very good.
Yeah. I mean, one of the realization I have is like, Lord will definitely take care of his devotees, as you mentioned. Like, it is a plan for Lord. Planned by Narayan, Lord Narayan here to bring Citraketu back to the Vaikunta. So that is why he put this particular pastime in place so that he can be delivered at least by the next life, and he can come back to Vaikunta.
Sure.
That is one. And second is like knowingly or unknowingly, we should not be offending any devotees or Vaishnavas. So here Chitraketu was not like he doesn't have any intention to offend Lord Shiva because he has lot of respect for Lord Shiva and he know that he is an exalted devotee.
Sure.
Um, and he's the master of all Vaishnavas. But just love came unintentionally here. But even though it is intentional unintentional, everything will have its own effect. That is one. And as you mentioned, like we should not be puffed off, even though we are a devotee, we should not be puffed off with our devotional service. Um, so there is nothing like he is great or he is less in the devotion. Everybody is same, and everybody should have the devotion and should not try to find fault in other devotees.
Yeah.
That's all. Prem.
Yeah. So how can we control that, Prabhu?
We know that we know that we are all working for Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah.
He is the controller and he is the doer. Actually, even he is the doer, he is the controller, and he is the enjoyer.
Yeah.
So when we know that it's all Krishna, and we are all belonging to Krishna only, we are all coming from the same place. We are not coming from a different place, and I'm not coming from different higher place, or and the other person is coming from a lower place. Every one of us is coming from the same place, so we are all equal in the eyes of God. So there is nothing like we need to compare some with somebody else or criticize somebody else.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, Lord Krishna says that we are individual souls. We are all the same, isn't it? We are
Yeah,
all
we are all the
the same
same.
life.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Who would like to go next? Uh, Taveshi Mataji, you have your microphone open.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
My realization is that to be tolerant in this world and how we can be tolerant. See, we are all born of ignorance in this world. It is very important to have association of spiritual master or pure devotees to get spiritual knowledge.
Yeah.
After meeting Narad Muni, Maharaj Citraketu, he became spiritually realized and he tolerated the case of Mata Parvati. In previous life, he was lamenting for his son when he died,
Yes.
and because Narad Muni gave him all spiritual knowledge, so he became Vaishnava. And all the Vaishnavas, this always said that Vaishnavas should have one of the signs of Vaishnava is tolerance. So he tolerated. He could have cased back to Mata Parvati, but he didn't.
Very good.
And Lord Shiva, he is a pure Vaishnava. and it says Yatha Shambhu, Vaishnava Yatha Shambhu. So he laughed because he tolerated because he was a pure Vaishnava. So we have to learn in this world, unless you got tolerance, that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, unless you are tolerant, then you can chant Hare Hare Krishna Mahamantra, otherwise it will won't benefit you. So it's very important to have some association of somebody who knows about Krishna, who can tell you how to be tolerant in this world. And so the whole thing is tolerance of Citraketu in this, and it's the case by pure devotees are benedictions like Gajendra. He was cased by Agast Muni, and then he seen the Lord face to face.
Yeah.
And same thing with Nal Kubera and Manigriv, they were cased by Narad Muni, and they seen Krishna face to face.
Yeah.
So these cases are all the benediction, and some Chitraketu became Britasur, but in the end he went to the spiritual world.
Very good.
That's my realization. Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful realizations, Mataji. Yeah, that's fantastic. Because okay, I mean he shouldn't have said what he said, but we can all make a mistake. Okay, this is our four uh, uh, these four faults we have in us. So we can all make a mistake. We can get illusioned, and we have cheating propensity, imperfect senses. So we have all these four faults in us. This is natural in the material world. But once you make a mistake, then how we handle it after that by using spiritual intelligence, that's very important as well, isn't it? So he didn't mean to make a mistake, but he made a mistake. So the mistake is made. So where do you go from there? So this is what you're saying, that he had made a mistake, but he handled it so nicely that even though Mother Parvati cursed him, but he took it as a boon. And Krishna says, Ye yatha mam prapadante tam satheva bhajamiham. So however you behave, so he took it as a boon, and it became a boon. It was meant to be boon anyway, but because he even took it as a boon, it became a boon. So however we deal with the Lord, he that's how he will deal with us. If we see Krishna as a light, then he will become light for us. If we see Krishna as a statue, he will become a statue for us. If we see a curse as a boon, that curse will become a boon. So it's our mentality. Because he was a great devotee, and because he had so much respect for the Mother Parvati and Father Shiva, he took it as a boon, and eventually it was a boon for him as well. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that realization, Mataji. That's wonderful. Uh, Praveen Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji,
Hare-
Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, everything's been said. So, yeah, that's what I thought. Because of our imperfect senses, we are under illusion and we see things as you know, as they're not meant to be.
sure,
And we have to see everyone as equal because we are part and parcel of the Lord.
sure.
And then I think that it just given us so many points, and then association of devotees and spiritual master, not to have do Vaishnava Prad, not to be like a mad elephant. And it's not our place to criticize seniors.
Yes,
And then also we have to have the qualities of a Mahatmas. Uh, I think it's been described in the Gita. We have to have the qualities of tolerance, humility, pridelessness. So more association and more chanting, more we are involved in devotional service. So that will help us to control our senses. Yeah.
brilliant. Thank,
Thank you.
thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Prem Prakash Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danda Pranam.
Right.
How you doing? I think most of the points are taken, already spoken and by the exalted devotees already, so I haven't got much to say. But one thing I just have with me is that if Krishna wants to take anyone to Goloka Vrindavan, he will take him anyways. He wants to take anyone to Vaikuntha, he will take anyways, regardless of his situation, whether he is a demon, whether he is in Patalok, where he is in exalted as Brahma, or wherever he is, whatever his position is. If he wants to take anyone, he would make the situation favorable. And that's how it would be. So most of the other points are taken. We need to we need to rely, we need to trust Krishna's decision, and then just accept it, tolerate the situation as Chitraketu did. That's one thing. By the tolerance, we also need to do that. We need to carry on our bhakti, whatever situation is there, uh, understanding that it's Krishna's mercy. Whether we are pure or not, it doesn't matter, because we know that the situation might come that we might be pure at certain times, but we might be disturbed in our minds, basically carrying on our bhakti process. Um, we might think that we are just a neophyte. We might think that we are. Situation might come that people consider us that we are exalted. But regardless of that, what is important is that this is a process to get the mercy. It's not the process of get perfection. We can't really get to perfection. We have to rely on the mercy and Krishna as well. So regardless of what our position is, whether we are one day into Krishna consciousness or we are decades into Krishna consciousness, we should still rely on mercy and still practice our bhakti process with whatever our best of ability and situation is. That's what I have to say, Prabhuji.
No, that's great. Thank you, Ruth. So you're saying that Lord would take back, once he decides he's going to take somebody back, he will make the arrangement for that, right? So if Maharaj Ketu, if he had cursed Mother Parvati back, would the arrangement still be there? What do you think?
That's what I again added one more point to it, that one should be tolerant and rely on Krishna's decision that he's making the
Sure,
right things basically.
sure. So
Yes,
we
so
should, we
that
should
that's the
recognize, it's very important from our point of view. So this is the thing for the living entity to recognize that Krishna is making the right arrangement for us. I mean, we might not even know at the time that we are going back, but yeah. So if we have if I have all our faculties right in our mind, in the intelligence, then obviously we can advance, isn't it? So we should see it as that. This is what I'm saying. Ye yathamam prapadante. So we should see it as a positive thing, and then it will remain positive. It will become positive, or it will remain positive, isn't it? Is that what you're saying?
absolutely. The reason why I added this point is that many of us who actually get into KC basically saying that we are just week old in KC or probably just one day. It regardless doesn't matter actually, to be honest. If one has to preach, one has to participate in Sankirtan movement. One has to do it basically. Not saying that I can't do it because I'm not into it. Uh, Relying on Krishna's mercy basically. Arrangements will be made by Krishna, but we should attempt to do it regardless of whatever position we are into. So all other points are already taken and said, but I just wanted to bring up one point that might
Yeah, no,
that
that's fine.
might actually, be important as well.
That's good. Now I'm just trying to clarify that this is how I've understood it correctly. So thank you so much for that, Prabhuji. Thank you. We have a Kajal Mataji. Kajal Mataji, you like to add something?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I'm sorry, I had to go and sort out something. Our heating and everything has
Oh
stopped
yes.
working, so I missed the class. I'll catch up the story from Partha Prabhu. So I missed this pastime. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Jay Prabhu? Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yeah.
I missed that bit, so I'll just comment on what I heard. I mean, although I think the points have been mentioned before, I mean, healing was, should avoid being pride, irrespective of your achievements. Even if, others praise you, you should avoid letting that feed your ego. And the other thing was avoid criticizing others. I mean, both of these points, being modest, absence of criticizing others, they're in Bhagavad Gita 16.1 as divine qualities. And also because he realized he had made a mistake, he accepted a case. So I think, before one does anything, says anything, they should think about the thing of saying. That's it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's good to accept mistake, isn't it? If we made a mistake, we shouldn't try and dig a bigger hole for ourselves. We should just put our hands up, say, "I'm sorry. Yes, I made a mistake, and I'm willing to take the punishment. If there is a punishment for it, I'm happy to take that because you'll come out a better person after that." And especially doing insulting a great Vaishnav. I mean, it had to be punished because example has to be set in this case as well that you can't criticize a great Vaishnav and then there's no there's no punishment for it. You can do whatever you like. So it's very important that example was made of him, and that's like in Srimad Bhagavatam now. It's been said that if you do this kind of behavior, then you have to. If you act like a demon, then you have to become then you are a demon. You'll become a demon. So they had to set example, but Lord Krishna, I mean, under day, so Lord Krishna's raiment. So if he does one thing, there's many other things, factors involved in that as well. So, although we might only see that, oh, he did this and he become a demon, but it was this example for us to learn from. It was something for Maharaj Citraketu to move forward from, to get rid of his pride and move forward into the next state and go back to Vaikuntha. So there's a lot of factors involved just in that incidence, and that's how Krishna works. We just see the narrow part, but there's a lot of other things that, especially positive things. Well, actually, all positive things, because Krishna can only do positive. All positive things come out of that, isn't it? Wonderful. So, it's very important that I think one rule we can all learn from is that we can be critical of ourselves, but we should never be critical of others. We should should be easy on other people, but we can be critical of ourselves. And we think that sometimes we can start thinking, oh, I think I've become really humble now because I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm always nice to everybody. I'm so polite and I'm so tolerant. But I tell you, if there is something inside you that a little bit of pride, it will find its way out. It's like water. Water can find its way out. If there's a little gap somewhere, little leak, water will find its way. And I think pride is just the same. Pride, anger, greed. I think we can talk about all these three. Even lust. If there's a little gap, tiny pinhole gap, it will find its way out. And I think this is what happened with Mahachitraketu. He was given that little gap, and it all revealed itself that he had become puffed up. He probably didn't even realize it because he didn't mean to say in that context, but it came out, all contaminated with pride, and he had to suffer the consequences. But then again, getting chastisement from mother, that we should always consider chastisement from our seniors as a boon. We should try and learn from it instead of just just saying, oh, why are they picking on me? Right? We think, well, we can learn from this and move forward and be better selves. And Mataji, Parveen Mataji, you had your hand up.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, I was just going to ask Prabhuji. Yeah, we shouldn't do a Vaishnava Prad, but sometimes you can have a feeling in your mind, like if you see somebody doing something wrong, and you think, oh, why they're doing this, and why they're speaking like this. Does that mean, even if you don't share it with somebody, but it's just your perception, the way you felt, is that Vaishnava Prad as well? And then we should pray to Krishna that we should not see anything wrong in the other person.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I mean, that's very good question actually. It's a very good point because sometimes you can see something wrong. So what do? You just turn a blind eye, isn't it? That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So actually, there's something called criticism and something else called correction. There's two things. So you shouldn't criticize somebody like Maharaj Citraketu did because that pollutes the heart and it stops your it's an obstacle to your spiritual advancement. So we can't criticize a devotee, but we can correct them, but not necessarily directly. You see, if you see something wrong and you think it needs correcting, then we can correct it, but your mentality has to be non-envious, and you want to, because you are non-envious, you want to just help that devotee. That's the mentality, that you want to help that devotee to get out of that thing that you think seems wrong to you. So what do you need to do? So you need to take it to a senior, somebody more senior to yourself, right? You shouldn't try to correct it yourself, especially if that other person is also senior. You shouldn't try to correct it yourself. You can take this you can reveal your mind to another senior devotee, and then they can decide how they're going to deal with it. So I mean, like Maharaj Citraketu, there's a big gap between Maharaj Citraketu and Lord Shiva, and he decided to deal with it himself. You shouldn't, and then that becomes criticism. But you want to correct them, so you have to follow a process. You can't do it uh, yourself. Or if somebody that who's in a similar level to you or lower level to you, then you can correct them by setting an example. You see, I heard one Vaishnav saying that he saw some devotees eating chocolate, and he wasn't, but because he didn't eat chocolate, he thought it was wrong, but he didn't want to criticize them for eating chocolate. So what happened? Even he bought, what he did. He bought chocolate for them. Maybe they're like on Harinam or something. He bought chocolate for them, and then he gave it to them, and they said, "Well, you're not eating." And he told them that actually I don't. Prabhupada has said that don't eat chocolate, so I don't eat chocolate. But you carry on, it's fine. But sooner or later they realize that okay, he's giving to us, but it is wrong to eat chocolate. So they gave it up as well. So you have to do it in a subtle way by setting an example. Instead of saying, "Oh, why are you eating chocolate? You're not supposed to eat chocolate. This is wrong. You're not a Vaishnav," getting out of control. So you can correct people, not criticize people. You can correct people by uh, by your own personal exams. So you can set an example for them and associate with them, building goodwill with them. Then then you can correct them that way instead of just hitting them hard with what they might find insulting. Does that make sense, Madhavi?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you. Yes. In one occasion, I had to tell somebody because they were using something that just said flavorings, and I knew that flavoring has got onion in it. So I had to message, so please don't mind. But I know that for definite that it has got onion in it, so please don't use it. So that was okay then, because
They
there
were
was no
okay
other.
with your correction. They're okay with it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure they took it, okay. So because I didn't want them to think it hasn't got onion and keep taking it. So I
Yeah,
thought it is important for me to tell them that it's not right. So
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
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 yeah. I mean, sometimes it all depends on the mood of the person, of the situation, your tone, how you say it, and the words used. It can easily spiral out of hand. Sometimes,
yes, yeah.
sometimes you're thinking, should I tell them or not? But some things have to be told because they are
Yes, no, they are seniors. Yeah, they are seniors. Yeah, they're in KC for a long, long time. But I thought it is important, and then I sent the link as well with they could see because I'd already inquired about that product. So I said I already know because I've inquired.
yes.
So yeah, yeah, and I was very careful with the words. You know how. So I did write it in an apologetic way as well. I'm really sorry, but please don't be offended.
Yeah, that's very
So
nice. Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, you can say that. Please don't be offended. But it's something I was told that this I think has onions in it. So
yeah.
please just double check for me. Check that
Mm,
is that the case, and then maybe we shouldn't use it or use something else. Yeah, that's very nice.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
instead of saying, oh, why are you using this?
Yeah.
If if you confront, if it's a confrontational, uh,
Yeah.
but then yeah,
Mm,
and so yeah,
yeah.
be careful. That's so nice.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Mataji, are you there?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm here.
Anything to add?
Oh, no, Prabhuji, it's a very good story of this Citraketu and Maha Vaishnav, and there is always a action about the action and reaction. So
Yes,
it is very, very serious offense
yes,
to insult like Shankar Bhagwan.
yes,
So we have to be very careful about this all aparad. We we have to save ourselves from all the devotees, pure devotees. A very nice, interesting story of Shankar Bhagwan and Citraketu.
yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So I mean, thing is, sometimes we can think we have become very advanced, or we become very senior now that we can, we have automatically the right to tell people off. But we should never think of that. We should always see ourselves as a servant of the servant. We should be there for correction, not criticizing. We can correct people, but like indirectly, but unless has to be done straight away, like Mataji mentioned, sometimes it has to be done straight away, but should be done as a servant, not as, like, oh, I'm senior, and then it all goes out of hand. So it's so very nice. So thank you all so much. We're going to chant now. Next week, we're going to do taking shelter of unalloyed devotional service. It's based on what Parveen Mataji was asking about, how to transcend the modes of nature. So it will be based on that. So there's very good lessons there to learn. So we'll do that next week. And Sunday we have Jainatai Prabhu is president of ISKCON Soho Street in London, and he's going to talk about true compassion, and he's going to give example of praise of Prahlad Maharaj. So look forward to that as well. So I really thank you all.
Also, Prabhuji, I wanted to say thank you for arranging the class, by, I can't remember the name of the Prabhu, for Grihastashram. So I think you should do it as well. So that was really good.
Krishna Dharma Prabhu, yeah.
Krishna Dharma Prabhu, yes.
Yeah, he's,
Yeah.
he's very experienced. Yeah, we're trying to get him from a long time. He's very
Yes.
experienced. I think he did a very nice class and learned a lot from that.
Yes. Yeah. If you can arrange again soon, that will be
Of
good.
course, I think I have to start chasing him now because he does take a long time to
Yes. Yeah.
to
Thank you.
come back to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you all for your association. Let's do a couple of rounds now. Rukmani Mataji, if you'd like to start.
Okay, Prabhu.
Thank you. Anand.
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna